I need to feel your energy today from start to finish.
Come on, let's go.
Let's crank this thing up. It get real ferocious, I'm trying to tell you.
Turn me up all day.
From the locker room to the broadcast booth, breaking news and the truth behind every take from a real NFL insider and television analyst.
Now get ready for the NFL show where the conversation gets real and the fans get a voice. It's time for the Lake Lewis Jr. Show here on ESPN Radio.
And that's football.
Welcome, everyone, to the Lake Lewis Jr. Show. Appreciate you joining us as always. Happy Tuesday to you out there. And we are literally on the eve of training camp for the Washington Commanders. So if you're a Washington Commanders fan, it all starts tomorrow. It's that time of year. People are excited about this football team, and we'll have a lot of answers, for a lot of questions for this football team start to develop over the next couple of weeks. We're going to talk about that today. We're going to talk about yesterday, where I was yesterday. We'll talk about where I'm going to be tomorrow. We'll talk about what's coming up a little bit later this evening at 6:00, late press conference between, Dan Quinn and obviously Adam Peters, the GM. They'll talk to us in the media, answer questions, and kind of give you a little bit of filler stuff before tomorrow. And there's going to be early practices. That's the thing that I'm excited about the most. 8:00 practices, first thing in the morning to beat that brutal summer heat. If you don't know, you don't know. But I got to tell you, it's extremely hot in Ashburn. Not a lot of shade out there on the practice facilities. And, so they're getting ready for that. On today's show, we're going to have former Redskins at the time, and I can still say the word when referencing past tense because that's what he was. He was a former Redskin, and that was cornerback Fred Smoot. So Fred's going to be calling in a little bit later on in today's show. I was talking with him yesterday at an event that was held, for the media, for us who cover the team, people who, cover the team on a daily basis. And it was with Adam and with Coach Quinn. And it was at DC Prime, up in the Ashburn area. And Alan, my friend, super producer. Let's bring him on. Let's bring in Alan Sandage. I thought of you yesterday when I was at the media event, not because of the questions and not because of just, chilling with Adam and Coach Quinn and chopping it up. I thought of you because of the food at DC Prime. It was absolutely phenomenal.
I love some good food, man.
Yeah, and they had, literally, filet mignon. They had, the strips of it, and they had, the crab cakes. And I mean, I was sleepy coming home.
That's why Jack and I make such a good pair. We're both love to eat, man.
This is a foodie town, and I'm around foodie people. And I thought of you because I was like, you don't make it up often, but when you do make it up, this would have been one of those times.
Oh, no, that would have been one of the times for sure, because the food that I get during the games ain't always something to drive up there for.
Trust me. I totally understand. But, yeah, they had everything, man. And I just, I think I had like 6 or 7 crab cakes, literally.
And you're cutting back.
Yeah, and I'm cutting back. I'm from up that way, so crabs and what was the movie? Wedding Crashers. Remember, Deuce said crab cakes and football. That's what Maryland does.
That's so true.
And it is true. He never lied on that. So yeah, that was an interesting experience because we did it last year. Well, they've done it this is their 3rd season here now, obviously. Josh Harris group with Adam and Dan. And this was the 2nd straight year we did it pre-camp and at DC Prime. And I got to tell you, I told Adam yesterday that literally they never did stuff like this for us in the past.
Yeah.
And I told him, and I said, I know you know some of the stories. And he's like, yeah, but I'm like, seriously, like, I appreciate this because they never did these things. I told him about the story, how I stood next to Snyder once and he never even acknowledged me. And I wasn't looking for acknowledgement from no man, but a hi, or hey, what's up? I mean, nothing, didn't get any of that. So for them to do those things, it's first class. And then speaking of that, I was at the facility yesterday, and man, just to see the layout they have for like the fans, just the stuff that they've set up. We had a chance to see it yesterday, and I was late getting there. So I went up by myself and saw everything. And it was, again, just they get it finally, first class. And that's what the fan experience is going to be about. And I think fans are going to be out on Saturday. So that'll be their first day. I'm not a big fan of when the fans come out when we have practices, just because it's just a lot that goes on, as you know. And it's nothing disrespectful to you as a fan out there. If you're listening, appreciate you and all your support. But it gets to be very chaotic, and sometimes they'll cut practices short. Sometimes they'll lengthen the practices because fans are there.
Yeah, it changes the schedule.
It does. It changes everything. However, the first day I want to see the excitement for the fans. And on my fan show last week, a lot of the fans were like, they're extremely excited. Some of them were like, they're more excited this year than they were going into last year, when last year they were kind of that chic pick to maybe get to the Super Bowl because they had lost an NFC Championship game the year before. So if you want to chime in on today's show, all you got to do is reach out at 804-327-0888. And this is one of those shows that we definitely want you to chime in on, because I want to talk about the most underrated players for Washington throughout their history. And there's three that jump off, the books to me that should be in the Hall of Fame that aren't in the Hall of Fame. And we'll talk about them. And then, of course, when Fred calls in, we're going to get his thoughts on training camp, because, he brought out the old school yesterday on me, Alan. He was talking about how when he was playing, they had two-a-days, with full pads on. And he said, and it was Marty Schottenheimer, and it was banging out there on the field the whole time. And he was talking about, being from Mississippi. And Brian Mitchell was obviously with them too, so we obviously it was a lot of fun, if you know what I mean. Yeah. And Brian was talking about being from Louisiana. They were talking about how hot it was in Carlisle. So with that said, one of the other things that I wanted to bring up today, if we have time for this, is I wanted to talk about, maybe we actually can lead off with this, because Alan would be a perfect person to talk about this with, being here from the area. And I wanted to talk about the locations for these training camps. And I'm not sure if you know this, but this year, 26 out of the 32 teams are having training camp at their home facility. So remember the days of everyone going away, far away for training camp?
Yeah.
That seems to be nixed now. What are your thoughts on that? Do you think guys should get away, or should they be in the comforts of their own facility?
I'm kind of on the bubble of just be comfortable, man. Like, especially when you're talking about teams and the wear and tear that you're going to have throughout the season anyway. You have a shortened preseason. Like, being home makes you comfortable, gets you in the routine. And I think just having people comfortable is probably the most paramount thing when we're talking training camp. A lot of people getting acclimated with new systems and players and things like that. You don't want to add you don't want to make it more difficult than what it needs to be. And
wasn't the point of training camp back then to make guys uncomfortable? To get them away make them sleep in little small college dorm beds, or not have them be around their girlfriends or wives?
Yeah, that was back then. But we're in a modernized society now, and guys back then were not traveling overseas and things like that, or going through a 18-week schedule. With 17 games and all this other stuff. And the game wasn't as physical as far as like the players and the speed, the size and all that. I think sometimes we don't calculate how much more rest guys need nowadays. And we call it soft now, but the athlete has changed. Like, think about it. Back then you didn't have guys Jalen Carter size or Jordan Davis size, right? Running down quarterbacks and things like that. And I'm not making an excuse. I'm just saying we should modernize. We should modernize. Everything evolves. Why can't the way we do things evolve too, right? Like, you added more travel schedule, more regiment. People work out different and all that.
Do you think that's what it is? Why they've basically nixed that around the league, or do you think it's just the simple factor of money?
I would 100% believe that there's some kind of analysis behind it, some sports science methodology behind it that probably states that guys are better served to be closer to home with less travel. Even though we sitting at home would call it soft, I'm pretty sure somebody did some kind of analysis on it and thought it was more efficient this way.
I think they looked at those tabs.
I don't think.
And they
Man,
were
look,
like, you know what?
how much did you say the league made last year? Increase
29 billion, but
29 billion more.
No. They made 23 billion. I'm sorry. This year they're projected to make up to 29 billion.
Yeah,
but let's face it, Alan. Those guys didn't get rich by spending their money. They got rich by spending your money.
That's true.
That's the way it goes.
But wouldn't you get more? Wouldn't you think you would make more money if you stay closer to home and pull from the fan base?
See, that's okay. So that's what I think it is. I think the fact that, I mean, fans would travel. I mean, they used to go to Carlisle when I was younger, and then all of a sudden they went to Frostburg, which was totally not their market. I know it was in Maryland, but Frostburg's like Pittsburgh territory, and Ravens territory. So, and then obviously they came here to Richmond, and I wanted to get.
We don't want to talk about that.
Well, that's what I did. I wanted to get your thoughts on that because Dan Snyder did a number on Richmond.
Yes, he did.
And I'm not happy about that. I will say this.
Richmond's probably still not happy about that.
Well, they're not, and they shouldn't be. And I'll say this. I live in Scott's Addition. I live not too far from where the practice facility was. I wasn't here then. I didn't know anything about Richmond, to be honest with you, except that I drove through it to get to my folks in Carolina, on a trip. And I will say this. Now that I live here and now that I am not too far from, Bon Secours or whatever, where it was. And I see that it's like, unkept grass at times and there's nothing there. And I feel really bad, man, because there was a lot of love that was given to that team, at the time. So this has nothing to do with Josh Harris and Coach Quinn and Adam. They weren't part of this. I'm talking about the old Dan Snyder regime. Should have been ashamed of themselves for the way they handled that. Would you like for a training camp to come back here if it could?
I mean, it would be nice from a fan perspective. I would imagine everybody would want it to be here. From a football lover perspective, I didn't mind it. Somebody shared the D'Angelo Hall clip, which I know he doesn't care to see, but that was an infamous moment at that facility.
It was.
And
remember RG3? Yeah, how crazy
RG3
it was. Yeah.
And there's something about being present at training camp that kind of lets you know, all right, we're here. It's similar to when you were a player. Mm-hmm. It didn't start till pads came on. Mm-hmm. As a fan, it doesn't really start until it's right in front of you. When you feel that energy as a fan, then you're like, yeah, we're in the football season. Because we can talk about it all we want. I'm going to be talking with you pretty much all the time. But until I go up to see the Ravens, until I actually get to, the Commanders and Dolphins joint practice, it won't feel like football until I'm physically present. And I think Richmond as a hub is a good location. International airport is accessible for folks all around the nation. So you can fly in anywhere. And it brings the market kind of closer to the roots, I think, of what they wanted. They wanted DC, Maryland, and the Virginia component. So having it in Richmond, I think, brings that Virginia component closer to home.
Yeah, I mean, practice facility headquarters is in Ashburn, which is in the state of Virginia. So you kind of keep things in tow. The reason why I would love to see it back down here is very simple.
Yeah, it's close to you.
It's right around the corner, and I wouldn't have to be living out of a hotel.
That might actually add more work for us. I don't know.
It would add more work, but it would be easy work. It's easy money.
I mean, it's easy for me now because I don't have to travel. You do it.
Yeah, I do. I mean, and I literally came back last night, and it's crazy because someone was like, they asked me yesterday. I was talking with Adam, and he was like, yeah, so what did you do this summer? Did you go on any trips? And I'm like, no, man, I just you got the radio show now and still doing some of the other stuff league wise. And he's like, yeah, I didn't do much either. He said he took his family and 2 daughters out, but he couldn't turn his phone off because, it was just a lot of stuff going on. And then Coach Quinn was talking about, he literally said to me, he told me, myself and Donna Hopkins, he said, he's ready. He said he's excited. He's amped up. He didn't even stay at the function long. He showed his face, talked to a couple folks, couple of us, and then he rolled out. He's in football mode. So you can tell a lot of stuff is getting ready to happen. So you're saying, as far as moving camp back here, if you could, you'd be okay with that. But then again, you'd have more work. But you also would have more more airtime, more TV time, more FaceTime.
Yeah, no, it would be good for business, I would assume, it would be a big bump up for the places, restaurants, and other things. There's so much economical uptick when you do anything NFL online, right?
Yeah.
But then also, if you're Richmond, you hear me say that, and you look at that field, and you look what happened the last time, you're like, oh yeah, economic uptick, huh? So I mean, it would be a testy situation for the franchise to kind of to try it. But I will say this: they have done a great job in every facet of revitalizing this fan base and changing what the brand used to stand for when you see it.
Yeah.
And so if they wanted to come back to Richmond, I'd be willing. Just me personally, I'd be willing to give it a chance. I wouldn't expect it to be the situation that it was with Dan Snyder.
Yeah, it definitely would change. There's no doubt in my mind, if something like that were to happen. I'm not so sure if they ever were to leave Ashburn for training camp again, if it would be down here or if it would be, one of the old stomping grounds. I don't see them going back into Pennsylvania, and I really don't see them going to Frostburg. So I obviously I think they're just going to stay where they are. Like I said, 26 teams are doing that, Alan. 6 more are probably going to follow suit sooner or later. I still think the Cowboys go to California.
I think they go to
Oxnard. Yeah, Oxnard. Yeah. So they still go to California. I'm surprised that they're not just having their camp at Jerry's World, because they have that really nice practice facility next to it.
Jerry's made so much money off of Jerry's World. He doesn't need them to stay home.
He want to take somebody else's money. See, spend somebody else's money.
But the Cowboys also as a national brand, man, they could go anywhere.
They could.
They can operate differently.
They could. They could do it in Beverly Hills or whatever, if they wanted to.
Yeah, I mean, the Steelers could probably do that as well as a national brand. They travel well as well.
I don't know if there's too many teams that could pull that off. I think the Cowboys and Steelers clearly are the two that could pull off. I say this all the time, and no one wants to believe me. And I have no stake in the game with either or, just the fact that I have to cover them as league media. I still believe in my heart that Pittsburgh is America's team. I
will say they probably are America's team in the sense that more people would root for Pittsburgh than the Cowboys.
Yeah.
But as a brand, man, Jerry's got that thing on lock, man. Like the Cowboys.
But I mean, you see terrible towels everywhere in all the games.
But when we're talking like media and news and getting an alert, the Cowboys are to the NFL what LeBron is to the NBA. Like you just say that name and people pay attention, whether they want to or not. It invokes some kind of emotion out of you. And I think that's why calling them America's team is kind of tongue in cheek, because more people probably hate Dallas than they root for Dallas, but you get an emotion. You get something out of it, right?
Yeah.
I don't get anything
because they haven't done anything in over 40 years. They haven't been to a Super Bowl.
I don't get anything out of Pittsburgh, other than my family roots for them, and that's why I pay attention. But like if you go walking down the street and you talk to somebody that's a casual fan of football, and you say the Steelers, they'd be like, oh. If you say the Cowboys, they're going to tell you whether they love them or hate them instantly.
Yeah, they will. They absolutely will. That's fair. That's fair. So they're America's most watched team.
Yeah.
How about that?
Yeah.
But I don't think they're America's team.
I don't think they're America's team either. I think that's such a tongue-in-cheek thing when he says that. He can't possibly believe that.
It's part of their brand to lure you in, to fool you every year.
Star is iconic.
They fool you every year. So we'll see. And right now, everyone's talking about them being the team in the NFC. Watch out for the Cowboys.
I'm optimistic on everybody with the Giants, man. I'm not a fan of what I see out the Giants. I don't like their energy.
I don't know. I think they're going to be improved. I don't think they're going to be a team that you're going to have to write home about this year, but I do think they're coming. I think that in a year or two, they're going to be a team that you're going to have to be, reckoned with, so to speak, that you're going to have to look out for in the NFC East. So listen, folks, remember, if you want to chime in today, because this next subject that we're going to talk about when we come back from break is big. It's Washington's most underrated players ever. And then remember, Fred Smoot will be calling us up a little bit later on in today's program as well. So stay with us right here on the Lake Lewis Jr. Show. From all over the country and especially out in the California market. So we greatly appreciate you guys taking time out of your day and joining us here on the Lake Lewis Jr. Show here on ESPN Radio. And I I wanted to switch gears a little bit and talk about some of the underrated players. I like to give you guys a little bit of some history lessons and things like that on this show. And that's one of the topics that's near and dear to me, especially when you talk to guys like Fred and Brian Mitchell, and they've come on the show and things like that. London Fletcher's my guy as well. And, so I wanted to talk about some of those guys that did a lot for the organization. And let's start, Alan, with London Fletcher. First and foremost, London Fletcher should be in the Hall of Fame. I don't think anyone in this region feels otherwise. And unfortunately, the people that it matters to get in there somehow, some way seem to forget, that this guy is one of 3 players to have 2,000, plus tackles. And I just don't understand. He's got a Super Bowl. He won one with the Rams. He was the hallmark, the staple for Washington for 6 seasons, 7 seasons. And for whatever reason, just not in there. And so what's your reasoning behind that, or the dumb reasoning behind why London Fletcher's not in the Hall of Fame?
I think London is a victim of not having the flair that you get with other Hall of Famers, right? Like there's an eye test to it. He would pass that, but like you don't see people running reels of London Fletcher. You don't see people airing highlights of London Fletcher. If I was doing this is how you play linebacker tape, London Fletcher would be on there. But he's not the poster child of that. And he kind of suffers from playing in an era where there was a lot of Ray Lewis in your face. and then, after Ray Lewis, we had like guys like Luke Kuechly, Patrick Willis, and there's probably several others. I mean, even Zach Thomas was, an all-time great as well at the middle linebacker position and stuff like that. I just think London just doesn't have the pizzazz. Yeah. Which is really silly to say, because at the end of the day, a good football player is a good football player. But it's what we were talking about this morning when we were arguing about Will Anderson and Micah Parsons. Shiny objects, right? Yeah. I'd take Will Anderson right now over Micah Parsons. It's not by a lot, but that's just me personally. But Micah's always going to be a shinier object, right? He looks cool. He has a lot of style points. And nobody's ever going to talk about any deficiencies in him in the run game or any of that, because he gets sacks. He's got those stats to go with it, right? And what do we care about? We care about pass rushing when we're talking about that position. London Fletcher's, he's got the tackles, but does he have iconic interceptions and things like that? I don't know. And so I'm not knocking it. I'm going to put him in the Hall of Fame. I'm a Niners fan. I remember Rams London Fletcher. I was happy to see him go to Washington. I was very happy to see him go to Washington. So it is a little disrespectful.
The thing is with London, I mean, he's one of 5 players to play 250 consecutive games. He never missed a game in his career with an injury.
He's a stud, man.
And don't you want to reward those type of guys? Because, I mean, if it comes down to money, you got more money out of this guy because he was always available.
Yeah, but I mean, they don't base that off of like Hall of Fame stuff off of that.
Yeah, I know.
And it's wild. People don't stump for London either. Like you don't hear a lot of people stumping for London. Like nobody national media wise, like the people who sometimes drive the narratives, you never hear anybody stump for London Fletcher, which is again kind of disrespectful, honestly.
I mean, listen to this. Listen just to put this in perspective. He finished his career with 215 consecutive games started. And if you compare that to anyone else, I mean, you look at it, he was tied for 7th all time, along with Alan Page and Rondé Barber. Last time I looked, those 2 guys are in the Hall of Fame. Yeah. So I don't know, man. I mean, I think we spend too much time in the media, not we on this one. I'm kind of removing myself from that group and saying this. I think too much time is spent, as you said, on who's in the headlines. And sometimes these guys are getting into the Hall of Fame and they've been in the headlines for the wrong reasons. This guy's never done that, and again, was uber productive on the field for his whole career. Highly underrated player. Another highly underrated player, and this will be something that tugs on your heartstrings a little bit because he's an offensive lineman. It's Chris Samuels. Chris Samuels, a 6-time All-Pro, or not All-Pro, Pro Bowler. Should he ever be getting any kind of consideration for the Hall of Fame?
I mean, Chris was he was very consistent. Man.
He was a dog.
I honestly don't know why I don't know why he's not.
Because
maybe it's because people don't respect the offensive line. I don't know.
But you don't even hear Chris's name being mentioned.
Yeah.
That's just, I mean, if you make 3 Pro Bowls, you're considered like that. You mean you're considered really good. 6 and different quarterbacks, by the way. I mean, I don't know what more you want from a person as far as the production on the field. But as you said, Chris is what? Quiet. A lot of people know now. So, well, Chris is on television now. He's on Housewives. You know, that's Monique. That's his wife who's on there. And he just happens to be coming into the house. But Chris Samuels is just one of the nicest guys, you know, very polished guy. You know, was a dog back at Alabama, you know.
I'm surprised he's not coaching still because he was on their national championship team.
Yeah, he was.
Like, as a coach in like what 2012 or something.
Well,
like
you
that.
know, it's hard coaching these kids nowadays, man.
Yeah,
it's a little different.
That's true. That's true.
You can't get on them like you used
and
to.
if you came in with Saban and during that time,
oh yeah. You're not yelling at anybody. These kids now go to their bag.
Some people still get away with it. You got to have the clout. In my opinion, like there's some guys like if they rip you a new one, you're gonna accept it. Like Mario Cristobal is one of those guys at this point. He's got the clout. He's not gonna mince his words. Same with Kirby Smart.
Yeah.
And then if you want to go to Ohio State, Brian Day is gonna do the same thing. So, but those are the winners, right?
It's like a couple of them.
Yeah.
Like you might have 5 that we can. Those are 3.
Yeah.
Can you name 2 more? Really?
Yeah, there's some other guys where I'm just like, I don't think you can get away.
I mean, maybe Lincoln Riley, USC.
If he yells,
but that's laid back out there. You know, they're not yelling at anybody out there. They're like, "What set you from?" We can't do that. So I'm just saying. I think that when you look at a London, when you look at a Chris Samuels, another guy, Joe Jacoby. I mean, Joe Jacoby, and I need for the youngins out there to hear me on this. When you talk about a prototypical tackle, left tackle back in the 80s and 90s, this guy was going up against the greats of all time, edge rushers, guys coming, Lawrence Taylor, he got him 2-3 times a year. Charles Haley from where? Not too far from around here.
Yep.
You had Charles Haley. You had Richard Dent. You had all these guys who, by the way, all of them Hall of Famers. And they all say that he was one of the toughest guys they would go up against on that weekend when they had the fair against Washington. How in the world is this guy not in the Hall of Fame?
I mean, every Hog member should be in the Hall of Fame.
I mean, I just don't understand. There's one.
Yeah. I mean, as a unit, again, I'm not glazing the Commanders or like the Redskins or whatever you want to call them, but like seriously, if we're doing a how to play offensive line as a unit,
come on,
as a unit,
it can't get any better.
Yeah, like seriously,
it can't get any better.
They're pretty sure they're probably the only offensive line with a nickname, right?
Yeah, I mean, or at least
the most iconic nickname.
Yeah, I was going to say that around the country, people know
Yeah.
about that. I mean, their brand. I mean, Major Tutty. That they're part of their brand is because of what that offensive line did.
Joe Jacoby was huge, man.
That's what I'm saying, man. 6'6", 6'7", back then, 300-pounder.
Yeah.
I mean, come on, man. And
I would have actually loved to, and this is how big of a nerd I am on the O-line, but I would love to have seen him play in today's game with his size and see how he moves and worked against these younger, quicker guys, these smaller guys, because Lawrence Taylor was considered small for an edge rusher back then, and now everybody's built like that. So they just don't have that same kind of motor.
Yeah, I mean, this guy played for 13 seasons, man. He 3 Super Bowls, 3-time first team All Pro. And for people out there that don't understand, if you're an All Pro, that's different from being a Pro Bowler. If you're an All Pro, you're being seen as the best at your position,
also
league wise.
If you're 6'7" and they move you into guard, you should get a pat on the back too, because not a lot of people can play guard at that height, man. They don't get low enough.
Yeah, so I mean, he moved around, but he was basically a tackle for the better part of his career. 4-time Pro Bowler. Was on the All Rookie team, was on the 1980s All Decade team. As your left tackle, and this guy's not in the Hall of Fame. It's a crime. It really is.
Yeah, I offensive line just don't get enough love. They just don't. I mean, they don't. I'm not even. I think we all know that. And typically, especially in today's game, where it's all about how much you score, you don't talk about them unless they're really bad.
So should we have a Hall of Fame that's like a worthy merit-based Hall of Fame?
No,
and then you have a what do you want to call it? The prima donna fame?
No,
you want to have one of those?
I really think they should categorize it to where you can only have a certain amount of like skill position players, and then a certain amount of offensive linemen, and a certain amount of like by position. Like, don't say a certain amount of tackles, just say a certain amount of offensive linemen and a certain amount of wide receivers.
But wouldn't that kind of water it down though if you do it that way?
Well, if you don't have enough qualified people, then bump it up for the qualified like set. So if this class had more quarterbacks that were qualified, then you can add more quarterbacks in this. Let them vote on it before that, and then use that criteria to base it to who can get in, because it's similar to like our MVP voting. Like, we know it's going to a quarterback, right? That's why we got to have an offensive player of the year
right.
be a non-quarterback,
right?
Like, it's getting kind of silly, man. So guys like Jacoby, like, the longer he waits, obviously the more offensive minded people are going to come in, the more quarterbacks or receivers and things like that. When you look at his career, he was definitely one of the best in his class. So if people from his class are getting in, why is he not getting in?
I've always said this. I think those Joe Gibbs teams, although we just talked about they did have like a little fun moniker, with the Hogs, and they had the Pearl Harbor crew, and they had the Fun Bunch, and all these different names that they were bestowing on their position groups while they were winning championships. But individually, there weren't guys really getting in trouble. There weren't, it was just a good group of guys. The character you had was like Dexter Manley and John Riggins.
In the 80s, man, I don't even think anybody got in trouble, honestly.
They didn't. They were just out there
the stories in trouble
beating on you on the field.
Yeah, the stories I hear about Lawrence Taylor, I'm like, brother.
I mean, bro, you could go back to that whole NFC East during those times.
Yeah.
I mean, you can go back to Michael Irvin.
I was
with the Cowboys.
You had a team with like a third of the University of Miami's like wildest people.
I mean, you got Nate Newton, who was driving cross country, with stuff.
Yeah, man.
So, but that's what I'm saying. Time. These guys are getting like they're walking right into the Hall of Fame, and I'm not taking anything away from them because their games were Hall of Famers. But I feel a little way sometimes, man. When I see these Washington legends that are legends are not getting the due love that they should be bestowed upon. So I'm gonna make it a point to talk about it on my platform, because Joe Jacoby, Chris Samuels, and London Fletcher, to me, are all Hall of Fame players. London, without question, should be in the Hall of Fame, and Joe Jacoby should be too. If you want to say Chris Samuels, we start talking about him, and then ultimately he gets in, I'm cool with that too. But just you can't just dismiss those three guys like if they weren't game changers on the field, because they were. Offenses planned around London Fletcher on the field. Defenses planned as far as going to the other side. And when obviously when Chris was manning one side, you had Lachey. I'm sorry, not Lachey, John Jansen on the other side from Michigan. So they had a nice little setup there. So, folks, we're gonna take a break, and when we come back, we're still waiting for Fred Smoot to get back to us. I know he said he's doing some recording today, but he said he's definitely going to try to make this happen. So if we get him on, great. If not, we'll still keep this thing rolling. So we've got a lot more that we're going to be talking about over the next half an hour on today's show. So stay with us. You're listening to the Lake Lewis Jr. Show right here on ESPN Radio. I had a friend of mine just text me and was just like, can you give us some dates, training camp dates. So I'm going to do that real quick for you out there. A lot of you, I had some people reach out to me as well, wanting to know how can they get some tickets or anything like that to come up. I will tell you that training camp, as far as the dates, it appears that they're sold out. I think the 11th and 12th, it looks like it's open, and that's only because that day is for season ticket holders. So I just want to let everyone know, so these fan days appear to be sold out. So maybe I can pull a string or two. Alan and me got a little something, a little clout, to kind of get a ticket or two.
do I have that clout yet? I don't think I got that clout yet. Don't put that out there, man, because I got a lot of family members who
will be calling. Right?
I got a lot of family members.
I've already gotten it over the last week. So but
I had one of them ask me this weekend when I was moving my aunt out, like, you get tickets? Nah, I don't actually.
I had somebody ask me, can I get them tickets in London? I'm like, man, what is this, man?
Right.
You're like, well,
I don't even know if I can get to London.
Listen, man, yeah, I'll be there for sure. Yeah, and you got something about me yesterday for Australia, so we'll see, man. I told Adam last night, like I said, I don't want to miss that Eagles game, that first game of the season, and if I were to go to Australia to cover the Niners Rams, that's kind of pushing it, man.
I'll go.
Yeah, you can take my place.
No, not to Australia.
Yeah. Yeah, I figured you would you might be down for the 49ers Rams because that's your squad.
I'd be so frustrated, man. I do not enjoy watching the Niners live.
Why do you get anxiety?
No, I get annoyed. I get mad. It's easier when I'm at home because I can't see everything at home. I only see what I'm shown on the broadcast angle. But like watching the times I have watched the Niners live, watching from a view where I can see the entire field and stuff,
right?
The game opens up a little bit more for me, and there's increased frustration. So I'm better off being at home.
I can respect that. I know. 2 years ago when Washington went on that run, man, you felt it. You felt it. I mean, as media, you still are like, you want them to win. I mean, business is good when they win. And it was, it was a little intense. And I remember the Philly game. Don't want to talk about that last game. That was bad. But yeah, just so people know, I wanted to give you those dates, that it is open for fans. But again, it appears that they've sold out. And that goes to show you the hunger and excitement for this fan base. But it's August 1st, August 3rd, August 4th, August 5th, August 7th, August 8th, the 10th, the 11th, the 12th, the 18th, and the 19th. Basically, we as media only have 2 days of camp where there's no fans. 4 days of camp where there's no fans. That has changed from years past, Alan, because we remember before, like even when it was here in Richmond, you had a couple of days, but now it's almost like everything. So again, it's the money side of things. Clearly that's what it's all about. So it's about getting money, getting paid, where they're having camp at home. All the teams are doing it, 26 out of 32, as I said earlier. So that's what this is boiling down to. And then remember, you have the preseason games, and then you have the joint practices. So the joint practices, I don't know how that's going to be set up. But the first joint practice is August 12th, and that's in Ashburn. Obviously, I'll be there as well, and that's against the Dolphins. And then August 26th at Baltimore, Owings Mills, I'll be there as well. So they're going to have their chance to have joint practices, which to me have become now more important than the preseason games. Would you say that, Alan?
I think so.
Yeah, because you get more work against an opponent that, let's face it, the preseason games, you're still going to have some guys not playing those games. I think the times have changed a little bit where you're going to have to see, especially for Washington, you're going to need Jaden Daniels out in preseason a little bit more than last year where he had 3-4 snaps and 3 of those were running plays.
Yeah.
So if I'm them, I'm saying, hey, let's put everything pedal to the metal. Let's get this thing going. Let's start this off. I know Coach Quinn talked about how they want to come out, swinging basically. So I think that you're going to see a lot of really good stuff. If you are one of those fans that are able, to be at one of these camp practices, you're going to see fireworks. You're going to see some really good, hardcore, competitive, position battles going on. Brandon Coleman, Chris Paul. Your prediction real quick, Alan, before we even break anything down like that. We're not going to talk about that today, but who do you think wins that left guard spot? Chris Paul or Brandon Coleman?
I'm going to go with Coleman, man. I
That's
think
two of us.
I think Coleman's the smoother of the two.
Mhm.
I think his hands are better, his feet are better, and if I recall, I think he looked more comfortable at guard when he slotted in there from time to time.
Yeah, I mean, Chris Paul had a hell of a year last year. He really did.
Yeah.
So he's not going to just go into the night quietly.
I felt like I saw Chris Paul more as that like extra tackle and things like that in that formation that they would run from time to time.
Yeah,
and when it came to like just the position of guard, it just seemed like Coleman just was more comfortable with it. And
Brandon's more athletic.
Yeah,
and I think Chris is stronger or was stronger because Brandon definitely looked like he was in that weight room this offseason.
Having good feet helps at the guard position. Communication does too. And again, it just seemed like Coleman had a better grasp of his assignments and what was needed between the center and the tackle and him. He just seemed more comfortable to me last year. And it's not a knock. Again, I don't think it's like a huge drop off if Chris Paul won it and Coleman slotted in. I just think Coleman was the better, more consistent performer.
Yeah. And let's face it, he was drafted high.
Yeah.
You know, and you not to play favorites or anything, but you want to see your draft picks produce. You know, that's because they're getting paid, you know, depending on where they were slotted, you know. So for him, I'm predicting Brandon, and I predicted this a while ago, but I think he wins that job back. And there's nothing wrong with that because it means you've got two quality guys. If one were to go down or one not play well, you can always pencil in the other guy. You know, you don't miss a beat. And then you have depth, and that's another thing that this team, I think a lot of people are going to be pleasantly surprised when they see the depth, not just on the offensive line, but across most of the units. Position battles are going to be everywhere. So there's really no guarantees as far as who's starting, except for Jaden Daniels, your quarterback, and Terry McLaurin, your wide receiver. I think everything else, and Laramie Tunsil, of course, too. I can't leave him out because still got to face him and see him. So, those three guys are locks. But outside of that, I think it's open. It's wide open for anyone to come in and make a name for themselves. You got two new coordinators who are looking for those guys to do that, and they don't have their guy yet. You know what I mean? So this is the perfect time. If you're a young player and you feel like, man, that guy in front of me, I'm never going to be able to supplant him. Not necessarily true when you have two new coordinators who they have fresh eyes and they're green looking at what they can get from certain players. Yeah,
and I also feel like young coordinators and younger coaches are not stuck in their ways of, I got to play the veteran. Right? Because, I mean,
that veteran will get you fired.
It'd be kind of crazy to be that way. And then you look at yourself in the mirror and you're like, I'm under 40 and I got this job. Nobody went with the veteran with me. So it's always good when you have fresh faces to make a first impression and get it done. And I think that the Commanders are going to put a premium on guys who can move. Athleticism is something that they've been lacking across the board for the last 2 seasons. Yeah. They've had it in spurts in Jaden's rookie season. When guys got hurt, they sorely missed it last year. So I think this year they're going to put an emphasis on that. Like, all right, we know you can be productive, but can you move, right? Mm-hmm. Can we get the big plays out of you, whether they be big hits or whether they be big runs? Like, we need explosive plays. We need wild plays.
Let me ask you this, because I'm just looking here at the joint practice setup, and there are going to be fans that are going to be able to see the Dolphins, here in Ashburn, and or up in Ashburn. I'm so used to being in there, being there and living there, and got back here last night to Richmond at 10:30 to turn right back around today. But this is the thing: which one do you think is more important? I know they're both important. Don't get me wrong, but do you think that joint practice at home in Ashburn with fans present is as important as when they go to Baltimore on the 26th?
Well, I would say going to Baltimore would be more important because, I mean, let's be honest, they may not say it because they're in the league, but I would imagine the Dolphins is not a team you're circling on your calendar to play or even do a joint practice with, right? They're pretty void of top talent. Whereas the Ravens are still one of the premier teams in the NFL.
With a lot to prove.
Yeah, with a lot to prove. And I would imagine that the coaching staffs feel the same way too. Like, you got 2 young coordinators. Ravens got a whole new set of guys up there as well. And the regional rivalry, I think that would definitely be more important, carry more weight. We might even see a little bit of scuffles during that particular practice.
Yeah, you think
people might chuckle at the Dolphins trying to scuffle.
You could do a little poll on that little pool, office pool and station pool, and you probably win some money on that because you're absolutely correct. It's going to be intense, and I know the intensity. And remember, it's later. It's the last preseason game. And it's later in the month, so guys are going to be just tired, mentally, just sick of banging on each other all the time. And then they're going to go up there for that joint practice and in that preseason game. And you and I both know they're probably not going to play a lot of people in the preseason game. So you're going to get all the work in the joint practice.
Yeah, the way the Ravens play preseason, I don't know if that's going to change under Harbaugh or without Harbaugh there. Yeah. But under Harbaugh, man, they used to take
it mattered.
Yeah, they took preseason seriously.
What was it, 4 years they hadn't had a loss in preseason?
It was a pretty good gambling angle, honestly. So, like, they used to take it seriously. I feel like that's not just a Harbaugh thing. I think that's the identity of the team. They want to compete, right? Yeah. Anytime there's opposing colors, they want to compete. Doesn't really matter whether the game counts or not. It counts to me, right? So I would imagine they don't want to give the Commanders anything to put on their social media as good publicity or anything like that. It should be a competitive atmosphere the entire time.
Could you ever foresee a time where there's no preseason games, but there's 2-3 sets of joint practices?
If they continue to keep expanding the seasons, yes.
I mean, because how can you not? You just, but you look at this. There's 3 preseason games and 2 joint practices. Technically, that's 5.
Yeah, and a lot of people kind of carry the regular seasons, first 3-4 games is preseason anyway for some of these teams. Bengals.
You can't.
Just putting it out there. I mean, they're not shy about it. I think last year, the year before, Joe Burrow was like, we need to take this more seriously or something like that.
Yeah, and if they come out like that this year, then Zach Taylor's in trouble.
Well, I'm telling you right now, I think the parity in the league is going to prove that guys need to get in shape and get it figured out sooner rather than later. Spotting 3 games in some of these divisions is going to wind you up in a position where you might be fighting for your life at the end of the season. And I know people don't put a lot of stock into the first couple games, but like if you notice, some of these schedules are starting with divisional games. That matters. That carries almost 1.5 the amount of weight. I think Terry used to talk about this all the time at the locker. Like you beat your divisional opponent, is almost like you're going up 2 games rather than 1.
Pretty much.
Yeah. So I think that's going to shift some people's focus in how they approach these regular season games early on.
Well, there's going to also be that proponent out there, the naysayers that'll say, well, you can't put so much into preseason, and especially early, in training camp, because you're going to have injuries to your star players. And we did see Nick Scorton go down,
just walking to the field, unfortunately.
And see that's where I was going to go. I know Scorton got hurt, with the Panthers, and that's a big blow.
Yeah, that's huge.
That's a huge blow. Yeah. But that could be anybody.
It really could. It has been anybody.
And if you go out timid, from playing, if you play any sport timid, you're going to get hurt.
Yeah. I would never encourage anybody to do any professional sport, even when you practice at half speed, unless you're going through like a drill.
Yeah.
Or something where it's like, walk through, like something like that. But anytime we're running like any kind of live action, it has to be full speed, man, because it's just your body responds differently when you have that adrenaline running through and you have those competitive juices flowing. It's really hard not to go all out. And so, we're going to see here, I think in the next couple years, some hyper focus on how we prepare ourselves during the off season. I think people are going to start working out, getting in shape a little earlier. I think the Commanders have actually shown you and told you that they've started a whole lot earlier this year than they did last year.
Different. Their body structures for their players look
that lacks
vastly different.
That lacks atmosphere last year. A lot of injuries. We'll see how it helps this year when they've started pretty much 1 to 2 months earlier than most people expected them to get in shape.
Yeah, I mean, and they're younger, more athletic, so you got a lot more hunger, a lot more to prove as a unit, as a team. So yeah, like I said earlier, you're going to see some fireworks in these training camp practices if you are one of the fans that will be there. And also, if you're going to be there, make sure you hit me up. Make sure, I love taking pictures with some of the fans. I get a lot of that during practice. They'll call you over asking to get a picture with you. even autographs, Alan, So, that's it's coming, man. Don't worry. You're going to get it too. Don't worry. No. You're coming because people are going to be like, I watch you in Lake, man. I love you guys. Like I get it all the time.
They're going to be like, I watch you in Lake. Yo, what did you say about so-and-so?
Well, I mean, I defend my guy all day. This guy knows what he's doing. He's one of the best. He really is. I mean, he's younger, though. I mean, I can't expect for you to say, I saw Sammy Ball play. I mean, no, man. I mean, come on now.
I Googled him. And I'm never disrespectful to the guys who paved the way for the football that we have today. I'm well aware it was a different game. Yeah. And a lot of those guys
are diehard, man. So I give you credit. Yeah. I do.
You find me a guy that plays today that didn't learn from somebody that played before him, right?
There's not too many people your age that can go with me on my show. And I say that with all due respect. And this guy can. So, folks, I know you're expecting to hear Fred, Smoot. I'm going to get on Fred tomorrow when I see him. What's up, brother? Like, nah, I'll get on him. But we'll get him on some other time. It happens. And he did tell me that they were filming, the command show. So as always, greatly appreciate you joining us. And we've got a lot coming up over the next couple of days with training camp starting tomorrow. I will be there giving you reports as well. So appreciate you. Have a great evening.